let's go to the top five realignment questions I have today, and I'll have more and more as they come on. Number 5, how does the ACC respond to this noise, which eventually will probably include Clemson, Miami, and North Carolina? I would think that Florida State, I would hope that they're not dumb enough to think that they're going to have to go this alone or keep on this alone, because otherwise it's not going to work out for them. But how do they respond? Because first of all, you really need FSU to stop talking crap about you, because it's not going to do you any favors when one of your marquee programs is talking about how terrible you are.
Let me ask you this. How did they respond? I bet there was a phone call today.
Yeah. I'm sure there was. Well, I mean, the thing is that this has been going on for months.
I know, but I bet either last night, and I would be surprised if it wasn't from Jim Phillips or somebody else, if there's like a foreman. To me, it may not have been directly like from Jim Phillips, but somebody called somebody and said, what the hell are you doing here? We know you're unhappy. We know others are unhappy. Why do but what are you doing?
Well, I mean, there's got to be something, because eventually it appears that Florida State's plan is lawyers. And that's what they're going to have to do if they want to break a contract. And, understandably, just on the surface, the people who made that decision at all these schools, the presidents and athletic directors, for most part, by and large, are all gone on that 2036 grant of rights. They're all gone. So you've got a bunch of presidents and ADs right now who are looking at this saying, look, things have changed not only in college athletics, but in I would not have made this decision if I were in the same job I was then. So now it's just, I get that sentiment, but the problem is that you still signed. You're still in it. And I get that you probably can't afford to wait till 2036 and you need to push the envelope. I'm just not sure that this is the style to do it.
All right, this is from a text, a guy that's very much, I've told you about him before, ingrained into like Clemson, but also the ACC, including Jim Phillips. Here's the thing he said today. You want this?
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be out. Everyone's going to be out to put a hit on them. Mac, Dabo will put as much as they can. They signed a good class and got cocky suddenly, talking about Florida State. Their president guaranteed got a call today from the league. Dumb. Not even the teams in the Pac-12 with all the chaos openly talk like that about their own league.
No, this is a very interesting tactic. And I'm not.
It's a great text. I'm not saying I agree with it, but like, part of it I do.
I understand that you have to find some way to shake up the discussion about it. I'm just not so sure that that's the way to do it. I really don't. And we'll see how that works out. Number 4, would Stanford be independent? Would that be something that they would want? Because they could totally financially withstand the loss. They could make their own TV deal, and it would be less than $20 million, obviously. But they could make it to where it was palatable for them athletically. They could do that for a little while, and they could go the BYU route until something came about. And the reason I say this is I'm not entirely sure that the Big Ten totally would want them, because that would mean going to 20 before you even played one season with 16 or 18. And I don't know if they really feel that that's gonna work. And the other problem with that is they already have the Big Ten already has a schedule out for 2024. So they'd have to change that even more so.
They do, don't they? Yeah.
They already have the schedule out. They'd have to change it again if they had Oregon and Washington. So those are things that are going to have to be worked out. And so let's just go to the next one. So if Stanford would be, let's say, yes, Stanford says, Big Ten's not calling us, we're going to be independent. If that's the case, then what about Cal? Because Cal, while a big, gigantic university that I'm sure has lots of money, does not have Stanford money, because no one has Stanford money. I mean, like, that is, that's like saying, look, the Knicks were great, but they didn't have Michael Jordan because only the Bulls did.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how it was. And so I don't know. Cal, to me, becomes the most interesting school in all of this, because they have even less like Oregon State and Washington State, you kind of know what's going to happen to them. And I feel the worst for them because they're the ones who really worked hardest to keep this thing together. And I get the feeling that Cal and Stanford did not do their fair share of the heavy lifting when it came to keeping the league together because they just have different organizational goals. But Cal to me is very interesting in who do you want to be in the 21st century?
Yep.
They're very interesting. And the other thing is, if years ago, Cal and Stanford, and particularly Cal, did not want to play in a league that played in Texas because they were worried about the politics here. Well, the politics in Florida, where they would play a lot of their games, are a lot even further to the right than they were even back then. And if you're not going to be in a Greg Abbott state playing games, you're definitely not going to be in a Ron DeSantis one either. And I'm not trying to make a comment on either of those guys. I'm just telling you that if you had a problem with one, you're definitely going to have a problem with the other. I mean, if you're Cal, that's just how it is. You're not going to be like, well, this one is
you do think of Cal and Stanford tied in together, right?
But I really don't think that Stanford would sit there and stump for Cal.
No, you're tied in together until it doesn't help you when it's not panic time, but you have to
they're in the same thing. They're big. They're each other's biggest rival. Yada yada yada. But the facts of who they are a little bit different. So that's the other thing. And I've said this several times talking about the Pac-12. You had of the 10 remaining schools, you had maybe 7 separate total agendas.
Yep.
And
Cal's got a huge endowment. BW, we saw that. But here's the thing about Florida State. Somebody just mentioned this. If you're so good. And again, what if the ACC said, go ahead, you go do this on your own? Could they?
No, they couldn't. No. They were independent for a long time until the financials.
I know they
of
were.
It,
I used to enjoy when there were some like Miami and Florida State and a few others.
I wish there was
kind of still a time Arizona State was a long time.
Yeah, I kind of still wish that was easier to do, but it's just not the financial realities of it right now. And yeah, I don't think that that. So, all right, number 2. What does this mean for the next Big 12 TV deal? That's what I started thinking about today. So now you're rolling in with 16. You have, say, 6 really solid years with the 4 Pac schools that you could get in the league. Can you get in that stratosphere a little bit? Especially with the 12-team playoff. If somebody...
Well, here's what's going to happen because we do know that 1-11 Colorado was not brought in because of 1-11. It was brought in because of Denver. It was brought in as well because, is the timing, but it was also brought in because Deion's given them a little oomph. And now what I think the Big 12 needs to do, and I know it's not about all wins and losses, but what they need to do is go win big games. Tech needs to beat Oregon. Baylor needs to upset Utah, and it would be an upset. Texas needs to go into Tuscaloosa, and even though I'll have heartburn for a week because of but they need to beat Alabama. They need to win those kind of games and not just be in certain markets or wherever. They need to win some of those games and not just once every 5 or 6 times, but over the next 2 or 3 years establish who's going to be the next team that is a constant top 10.
Yeah.
Not an image or logo, but a constant top 10.
Yeah. They definitely do. But if they have if this is a really good 16 and the next TV deal for basketball is going to be probably separate than football, which that one will probably be a huge, gigantic basketball deal by basketball standards. Given the fact that it looks like Arizona is going to be in this league with Kansas and Baylor and Houston and Kansas State. Holy cow. I cannot imagine what the conference tournament's going to be like alone. And number 1, what is the overall end game? What's the plan, guys? How does this end? Because I don't think that has been fully discussed. And I've said this on Top 5s before, and I've asked this question before, and I will continue to ask it when it comes to realignment. It would be nice that when the dust settles, the powers that be get together and say, okay, how do we manage this that's beneficial for all of us? The good of the many outweighs the good of the one. That's something that we've kind of lived by as human beings for a while, and it really works. I know that, especially now in our like very selfish world we live in, we forget that. But the good of the many outweighs the good of the one. And
isn't that been the SEC's mission statement in some ways?
Yeah, but also that's
I
within
know that
their
may
little
sound,
bubble.
But no,
Yeah.
but they protect even the small chicklings.
Yeah, but within this SEC bubble, the SEC also needs to start operating like the good of the many of college football is better than the good of the one, which
I don't think Sankey says that. Maybe he truly means it, but it's interesting after what they were able to do by getting brand new cars in the garage. And then all of a sudden, I hope that things in realignment calm down.
Yeah.
Really?
See, that's why people need to realize this, and I just don't know if it'll ever happen because greed is what is driving a lot of this, and the overall look to the end of what this is going to be is don't make so many changes in this sport that so many people love that it's not what
they love.
What it was.
Then you get away from the sport that people love. Yeah.
Yeah. So don't do that. And I just don't know what the end game is. And it would be nice for everybody to get together. Paul Catalina doesn't want to directly quote Spock from Brett Bingham. I don't know if that's Spock or Adam Smith, the economist, but I don't know. So, yeah, the good of the many outweigh the good of the one.
Spock's the guy with the pointed ears, right?
Yeah. Well, it's saying, look, and Spock at the end of Wrath of Khan, which you talked about yesterday, which I was shocked that you even knew what that was.
Oh, that wasn't from my brain. That was from somebody that sent me a text.
But at the end of the Wrath of Khan,
I think it was from David Carter in Houston.
He sacrifices himself to save everyone else. So, yeah, the good of the many outside, way the good of the one.
Okay, Emory went